All right, very good. All right, I'd like to open up the Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. So for this particular meeting here, we actually did not have a meeting. This was supposed to be the day break until special town meeting tomorrow. But we thought as a board, collectively as a board, with everything going on, that we'd have a quick meeting. Our agenda does look beefy, but it's relatively light. So why don't we just jump right into the agenda? So first and foremost, there's no schedule items here for 7. So we're going to start with residents at the tippity top, just in case they want to call in. And the number for residents, I think it's on the screen, but I just want to, I'll just call it out quickly. It's 978-771-0819. Again, 978-771-0819. So I'm sure, well, Jason, I'll ask, do we have any residents or any residents holding?
No residents yet, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, very good. Then we'll just wait a little bit here just in case the residents want to call in. So why don't we just jump right to new business here? So the first order of business is kind of the pretty obvious, but we want collectively as a board, you know, we can't continue. We can't stop thanking the town enough, first responders, ambulance folks, health department, and volunteers alike. So again, we always start with the people on this board. So we just want to give a call out. We can't say it enough. Just thank you to the town and thank you to Mr. Montori and all the staff that's coming in every day working, you know, through the crisis. So we wanted to cover that first and foremost. The next order of business here is the public order for masks. However, I think this might be a moot point at this point, since the governor, he came out, I think, with an order on Monday. As a matter of fact, tomorrow's May 6th. So yeah, I forgot. Happy Cinco de Mayo Day to all. But getting back to the mask, I think we have an order from the governor for tomorrow, May 6th, that we have to wear masks in public. Mr. Montori, I can tell you, this is almost like plastic bags 2.0. When the Tewksbury had a plastic bag article, we got a lot of calls on this, and I'm telling you, all of us as selectmen, I think, in the Board of Health, we're getting a lot of calls on this. Do's and don'ts. What are we enforcing? What are we not enforcing? So we don't have to make an order or a vote, obviously, but maybe Mr. Montori, just at a very high level, how the town is going about this, the ordinance from the governor.
Covering the actual directive or the order that came from the governor, it's effective, as you said, Mr. Chairman, on May 6th. It's requiring individuals to wear masks or face covering in public places. Any person who is in a place open to the public in the Commonwealth must that can't maintain distance of approximately 6 feet, must have cover over their mouth and nose with the mask or some type of cloth covering. Masks are going to be required at all times when inside or waiting in line outside a grocery store, pharmacies, other retail stores. Providing or using the services of a taxi, car, livery, ride sharing, or similar service. The order talks about having face covering when you're on any form of public transportation, including train or bus. You know, there's further guidelines and information if you go on the mass.gov website or our website. And then it calls for local boards of health with the assistance of the police department to enforce the mask or face covering order. So we've met internally, the Board of Health met today, and what we've discussed is that you know, we are not going to be out policing this every day, every call. We are going to, if people call and report someone not wearing a mask, they shouldn't expect us to respond to that call. We'll respond to any of the large retail businesses that have an issue that may cause any disorderly conduct or a problem within the store. But if someone calls from a retail store and says, I'm walking through the store and there are people in here without masks, we just don't have the manpower and the resources to answer every call. So we're going to really take a very light approach as this opens up tomorrow. We're not going to be finding people or stopping and ticketing people on the street. We hope people do the right thing, and we encourage people to wear face coverings and masks. But the enforcement is going to be very difficult. We're going to do more educating than regulating. If people aren't wearing a mask, we may stop and say, our departments may stop and say, you should be wearing a mask. If you need a mask, we may have some extra ones to hand out, even though we're not going to be a place where people can get a mask. But we want to educate more than regulate. So we're going to take a real easy approach as this starts.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Montori. Any questions from the board on that subject? Okay, seeing none. And it looks like we do actually have a resident, Mr. Brian?
We do. He's on the line now.
Okay.
Hello, good evening.
Hey, just the name and street for the record, please.
Sure, my name is Rich Lavasser, 25 Anthony Road.
Thank you, Rich. Floor's yours, Rich.
Well, I'm calling through you to the town manager. Well, first of all, through all of you, thank you for all you're doing through this. I know this is difficult for all of us, and we're dealing with it. I think Pittsburgh is being good. But I just got a question about finances, because I know finances are going to be a nightmare. I'm glad I'm not the town manager in the next budget cycle. Are we doing everything we can with respect to the empty buildings? Like, I know the schools are all empty. Is the heat turned down to 58 or stuff like that, and the air conditioner not programmed to come on, that type of thing? So we're saving there.
Sure, that's a great question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. The buildings do have facility staff in them, and they're checked every day. We do have, we have our heating set at the proper temperatures. We're walking through facilities and buildings, making sure everything is in order to make sure there are no issues. As I said, school buildings have staff in them. Our buildings have staff in them. We still have people working in offices, so they're not totally empty with no one in them. They are monitored, and there's activity in them on a daily basis. May not be to the fullest, but they are active.
But I was just thinking, like the high school, with respect to, we don't have, I'm sure not all the high school is full. So if say we have 26 zones of heating and air conditioning in the high school, and we're only using 5 of them, are all the other zones turned down?
Yeah, I don't know how they're exactly doing it, but I assume that because there is our facility staff within the building, that they are keeping all the zones that aren't being utilized at all to a proper temperature to ensure there are no issues.
Okay, I just wanted to be...
I can double check on that tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rich. Thank you.
Be safe.
Same to you. And we can say at a higher level, I mean, that's the here and now. That question, there was a very good question from the resident, but I can tell you, we know this is the tip of the iceberg when it comes to finances around the town. And Mr. Montori, I know you're going to elaborate during the town manager section, but maybe just share with the residents kind of what you share with your department heads, because we know how real this is going to get in a very short fashion, very short time.
Mm-hmm. Because there's a facility. You want to wait till I get to my budget, or do it now?
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. No, we can wait till we go to the budget, because I know you're going to cover it, because it's near and dear to all residents. So, Brian, any more callers just to be safe?
No callers, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that was the first caller over our virtual session. That was good. Okay. All right, so moving right along, we covered the public order for mass. So as far as the board of registrars appointment, this one, if you remember, we tabled it because we did not have the name. We got the name provided. So unless the board has any questions, I think this should be a quick slam dunk. Does the board have any questions? And I'm trying to look. I don't have the packet up. I don't know if someone has the packet up just to say the individual's name.
Yep, Mr. Chairman, it's Amanda Carroll was recommended as a choice for Board of Registers. Correct?
Okay, correct.
So
Thank you, Mr. Brian Dick.
do you want to make that in a formal motion?
Please.
Yep, so I, based on the recommendation from the Democratic Town Committee, they unanimously voted to recommend Amanda Carroll as the choice of board of registers. So I would like to make that in a formal motion to approve that.
I'll second
Motion,
that.
second. Okay, a second,
Second
Marie.
that, Tia Marie.
Okay. And we have to do a roll call because we're virtual. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead. Was there a question?
No, can we make that to Brian? Can you amend that to make it to June 30th of 2022, just to have that on there for the record of when we're doing it? Except for the time frame.
Yep, so I can approve that amendment. So is it, what was it, Mr. Crowley, June 30th?
It's the term to expire on June 30th, 2022. So it's like a 2-year appointment.
Okay, so I would like to change my motion to recommend Amanda Carroll as the Board of Registers appointment up until June 30th, 2022.
I'll second that.
Okay, I'm a second from Ms. Stronach. Okay, because this is the virtual meeting, we have to do the roll call, so we'll go ladies before gentlemen. Ms. Wellman,
Aye.
Ms. Stronach,
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick,
Aye.
Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Next order of business is we have on the Tewksbury Country Club application, change of hours to existing liquor license. So just for the residents, and we have the pamphlet. Mr. Ginsburg business operates. I just lost my pamphlet again. I believe does someone have the pamphlet open for the current hours? And then we're going to talk about what hours Mr. Ginsburg's requesting.
Mr. Chairman, the current hours of the Tewksbury Country Clubs.
So I'm going to jump in for Mr. Strong.
10 a.m. to 1 a.m. and Sundays,
Hey,
12.
Marie, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties on your end. So, Mr. Brian Dick, want to just highlight the current hours?
Yes, the current hours for, I believe, are, I just had it up. Sorry, technical difficulty.
It's 11.
They're 11 to, Mr. Chairman, they're 11 to 1, 11 to 1 Monday through Saturday, and 12 to 1 Sunday.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. And very good. We got it. And I think the current request now in front of the board is to extend the hours. Essentially, start time is 10 a.m., and that's going through Monday through Sunday, so 7 days a week. So really doing the hours at 10 o'clock as opposed to 11 o'clock on Monday through Saturday and 12 o'clock on Sunday, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I think Mr. Ginsburg specified very similar to what other businesses and restaurants have done, just for occasions. I was going to say Mother's Day. I'm going to say Happy Mother's Day at the end, but for obvious reasons, the restaurants aren't open. But I think we all understand why the ask was, and it also applies to the golf as well. For certain events. So, with that said, any questions from the board? What is the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to increase the hours beginning from 10 a.m. until closing, which is 1 a.m. For the as submitted by the applicant.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Ms. Wellman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Mr. Mark Kratman?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Unanimous, Ms. Melissa. All right, the next order of business is Board of Selectmen signature designee. So, Mr. Montori, keep me honest here. Because we haven't been coming into the building, often we have to sign what we approve as the board, 5 members. Is this really putting in as a placeholder in case we do approve something and you need to authorize it or sign it? We're giving you that ability based on the current circumstances. Is that accurate?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. So as an example, you made an appointment tonight to the Board of Registrars. We'll be sending a letter out. Just the normal procedure has been either you or the entire board signs that letter going out. This just gives me the authority to sign that correspondence. So that's in general terms. If there's other matters that you want to specifically state in the motion that you're approving something and you allow me to sign it, you can do that also as another way of doing it. But it just saves time.
Agreed, especially that we're not coming to the office for obvious reasons. So, any questions from the board? Okay, what is the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to allow the town manager to be the author the designee for the Board of Selectmen for signatures on things like tonight with the Board of Registers and any other business moving forward.
Normal administrative business. There's just some things I won't be able to sign. It's just normal administrative business.
So I would like, so normal administrative signatures by the Board of Selectmen. I'd like to nominate or appoint the town manager as designee.
Second for discussion.
I have a motion and a second, please.
Just really briefly, should we put an expiration date on this to be extended if we need to at some point in the future, but, through the summer or something like that? I don't know what your thoughts are.
Why don't you put May 30th for now? Let's hope we're back.
Sure. All right, so that would be, so I would amend Mr. Dick's motion to just end, everything he said exactly, but just to expire on May 30th. Pending.
Second the amendment.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I have a motion, I have a second. Roll call. Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Brian Dick.
Aye.
Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. The next order of business, we have a street name approval. Kenzie Maria Way. And just for the residents, that is our jurisdiction now as selectmen to approve or not approve particular street names, and all the paperwork was in order from all the various departments, so there was so they had no issues whatsoever. So at this point, are there any questions from the board with the item number 7, street name approval? What is the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed street name of 181 Pine Street. Approve the proposed, I'd make a motion on Kenzie Marie Way.
I have a motion.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that's a second. So roll call. Ms. Wellman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick. Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
All right, Mr. Mark Kratman.
I vote aye as well.
And the chair votes aye as well, unanimous. All right, and that brings us down to the town manager report. So, Mr. Montori, you want to start with project updates, please?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as we all know, we have some major projects that are going to be starting in town, and others that are coming to conclusion. And then others were in the planning stages. Starting with the Center Fire Station, which recently was approved by the Planning Board, which I'm very grateful to the Planning Board for approving. We have been in the process of putting the final touches on the bid specifications. We are going to be placing an ad in the Central Register to advertise the project on May 21st. Documents will be ready to go out to potential bidders May 27th. We plan to have a site walk on June 4th for the project. Filed subbids on the project will be due June 23rd, and then general contractor bids will be due June 30th. Between now and then, we plan to have all of the contract documents ready to go. So once we select a general contractor shortly after June 30th, we'll be able to get the contract in their hands and signed. The goal is to have mobilization on site by mid-July and start work by the end of July. If we get that accomplished, then that'll give a contractor plenty of time to get steel in the ground and hopefully start getting the building enclosed for winter work. It's an 18-month project. So that project's underway. As far as the next project, which is the Regional Emergency Communications Center, that's the building that was constructed next to the DPW facility on Whipple Road. That project is complete with the exception of a few punch list items that we're trying to get the contractor to finish. We were set to have a nice tour of the facility until all of this happened, but I'm looking forward to bringing the board through and at some point down the road have an open house so people could see the facility. Kevin Lassard is our executive director. He has been working there since January. We're in the process of interviewing for dispatch supervisor positions. There will be 4 of them that we'll be appointing. We'll be also interviewing for open positions, open dispatcher positions at the center. All the dispatchers that work for Tewksbury and Drake that are interested in coming over and working at the new Regional Communications Center will be moved over. Some of them have applied for supervisor positions, and they're going to go through the process of interviewing over the next few weeks. We're hoping that the punch list items are finished over the next month. The current pandemic crisis has caused us to slow down the actual operations opening, but we're still hoping we can see some type of operation start in July of this year. The project's been fully funded by the Commonwealth of Mass through the State 911 grant program. We have just submitted our latest application to the State 911 department for the next round of grants that we hope to get funding for further equipment and to pay for the town of Drake and the town of Tewksbury's assessments towards the project for the next few years. So things are going well down there, but if you drive by the facility, we get a lot of compliments on the design and the construction, and we're anxious to get it operational. It's fully equipped, fully furnished. Just need to get everyone trained and in place, and we'll be ready to go. Any questions on either one of those projects?
Mr. Chairman?
Please.
I have a question on the dispatch. Is there any luck getting other communities now that it's up and operational? And I know that you've been reaching out once we are able to do tours that might be helpful to get other communities. I was wondering if there was any status update on that.
So far, nobody has jumped at the chance of joining, but with the current crisis may have people busy doing other things. But also this current crisis, because of the difficult finances we're probably going to be running into, may push people towards the Regional Communications Center because there will be a cost savings. So nothing at the moment. The state did their best to incentivize people to join because they did put in the grant program this year that they would pay for 3 years worth of their operational assessments. It doesn't appear that that we're hearing anybody's taking advantage of it yet.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay, moving on to the next project, just a general overview of the elementary school project. The elementary school building committee has been meeting regularly on their schedule, which is once every 3 weeks. They've had full agendas and been busy over the last few weeks. Even though we can't meet in person, they've been meeting virtually, and they're getting a lot done, and it's working well. The project right now is still going through the planning board for approval. We expect the project to be approved and have its permit approved at the board's next meeting, which is Monday, this upcoming Monday. After that, we'll wait through the appeal period, and if all goes well and everything's in place with the planning board and also Conservation Commission, which they're going to, I think it's either this week or next week. We hope to see actual work starting on the project in June. If we meet that schedule, the project, you'll see a lot happening once that takes place. They're going to start mobilizing to do site work. We've already approved other parts of the first stages of the project with Consigli, the contractor that we have for the project. They're going to start demoing the buildings that are on site, the bleachers that are on site. They're going to start bringing in steel and concrete for the work, and just really, you're going to start seeing the project ramp up once they get in there in June. The project is not going, at the current schedule, the project will not meet the opening of school on September of 2022. It's going to be probably a month or two behind. We're not sure if we can make up that month or two once the project starts. So over the next couple of months, we'll be discussing putting in a solid schedule in place for the project, so people have an idea exactly what they can expect or when they can expect the school to open. But right now, because of the issues with design and the departments internally approving some of the design, we've had some delay in the schedule. But again, once it gets started, we'll have a better idea if it can be made up. But I think people should brace themselves for the project not opening up for the start of school, September 2022. Any questions on the elementary school? And one other important note, the project is under budget based on the current estimates that we have. So that's always good news. But, you know, we still have a long way to go.
I was going to say, let's not uncook the champagne just yet, but that's good news.
No, but I just want to, because people will always ask that question. And then finally, the DPW school maintenance facility. Over the last couple of months, we've hired a owner's project manager, which is PMA Consultants. After hiring them, we went out and requested for qualifications to hire a designer who we have hired. That's Weston and Sampson. Both companies have been under contract, and work on design and programming has started. The first phase in the design has been working with staff at both the schools and the DPW for programming and understanding the needs of the facility or of a facility. Doing site, the site that it's going on.
He's going to tell everybody he designed it.
And then, so they're going through all that right now. They hope to be done with programming by the end of May. Then they'll start looking at schematic design and cost estimates between now and the end of August. They hope to have a good cost estimate for us for town meeting in the fall. But obviously, because of this crisis, things are going to be up in the air, but this is the schedule they're within. If we did move forward with the project in the fall and we secured funding, then they would continue with design development through August and October, then finalizing design development through January, have construction documents ready February of 2021 for bidding in April, May of 2021 for the project, and then hopefully award a project somewhere around June of 2021 for construction to begin. And it is again about an 18-month project. So that's kind of the schedule we have in place right now. But again, the COVID-19 crisis has put us into a different situation, but we're still going to move forward with the project as we planned, and we'll adjust over the next few months depending on how things are going.
I have a question, but
Yep.
Okay. Any questions from the board? I'll go last. Any questions from the board for Mr. Montori?
I have one question, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Montori. Where would the school maintenance department live? Since I think the school maintenance department is currently at the end of Doucette Field.
So currently, They're located in a industrial condo in the area of Washington Street that they're renting. So they're housing most of their equipment and items there on a temporary basis.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know. There was still a lot of equipment down there, but I guess they'll start to move all that stuff as they start staging. Yep.
A lot of it, most of it's going to be stored at this facility that they're leasing, but some of it may be scattered amongst other schools.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board members?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to say this work that is being done for this, just want to make sure residents know this is being done within the tax, there's no debt associated with this project as we're working this phase of it, correct, Mr. Montori?
All of this is being funded by free cash, stabilization fund, and retained earnings from water and sewer. So nothing has been borrowed for the project and existing funds.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board members?
Thank you.
Okay, well, I was going to just echo the same thing just for the residents. Mr. Montori, you just mentioned that we had 4 projects: the Center Fire Station, the Regional Communications Center, the elementary school, and the DPW maintenance facility design, just only design. Those 4 projects are all been approved at town meeting, special town meeting. They're locked and loaded. So just for the residents, it's not like we could pull back. The monies were already allocated, correct?
Correct. Everything's been allocated, and anything that's needed to be borrowed has been borrowed and has been included in the taxes that we currently have.
Okay, and just for the residents, we're going to have some votes coming up here in the spring, but as far as the DPW itself, the dollars that were allocated currently are around the design, not necessarily the building, correct?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Any other
Mr.
questions
Chairman?
from the board? Please.
Yes. To your point about these 4 projects, the regional dispatch is not being provided, the funding is being provided by the state. I know that Mr. Montori mentioned that, but while you're grouping them, I just want to say that to your point for the residents as well.
No, great call out. I just think, even goes back to our resident that called in. We're all getting the calls. We know this is the tip of the iceberg with the COVID-19. So we're just, I can't emphasize it enough that we understand that we're going to be paying attention to every penny moving forward. So, okay. Any other questions from the board? All right, floor's back to you, Mr. Montori.
Okay, so just, that's all projects that we have. There are no other project updates. Those are the major projects that are ongoing, other than some of the, DPW water projects that will be taking place and things like that. Moving on to the COVID-19 update, if I could. Just quickly, from a general operations standpoint, we're still operating offices and staff as we have been the last few weeks. We continue to provide the essential services to the residents and responding to residents' requests and issues. Things have been going well. Each week we ramp it up a little bit more. But as we know, this past week, the governor came out with a new executive order to extend the stay at home until May 18th, only allowing essential workers to work. We've stayed within that order, although we do have work that needs to get done. And over the next couple of weeks, we will be bringing back staff that has to address issues that are outstanding for us in the area of whether it's finances or preparing for elections and town meeting, just answering general residents' issues. So the stay-at-home order by the governor has been extended to the 18th, but internally within the town operations, we continue to have staff work, and we'll be ramping up the staff that is working more and more as we go on. Also, the governor, in addition to extending the order, stay-at-home order to the 18th, we covered the mask and face covering and nose covering issue. In regard to that, as we talked about earlier, we did send out information on Code Red to remind people of the new order. We are going to send out information on the website reminding people of the mask order that will take effect tomorrow, just so people are aware. The governor also announced that he formed a reopening advisory board that is co-chaired by Lieutenant Governor Polito and the Housing and Economic Development Secretary Keneally. And it has representatives, small sectors, including municipal government. I believe there are 3 mayors on the committee. And they're taking input from the communities through the regional planning associations. We'll be providing input that department heads have put together. If this board has any input they would like me to send in regarding the reopening of the Commonwealth, let me know and I'll send it in to NIMCOG, who is our regional planning agency. So that's taking place. The governor's made it clear that he expects a report on the 18th, not necessarily opening up things on the 18th. So we'll have to see how things go. So that's what's happening on the state level. We continue to monitor any news from the administration, the legislature, Department of Public Health specifically. All of our department heads have operations that relate to various parts of state government, whether it's the health department, making sure they're understanding what the Department of Public Health is doing, or the town clerk's office, making sure she stays on top of what the Secretary of State's office is providing for guidance. Steve Sadwick, the assistant town manager, has been involved in conversations with different groups regarding site plan approvals and other type of special permit issues that are impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. So all the departments, police and fire, are doing the same when it comes to public safety. So we're not only trying to maintain our own operations, but we're trying to stay on top of what the state's doing that may impact us. In every day, throughout the day, things change and new things come at us. But so far, things are going well. In regard to construction activity, private construction continues. There's no major construction to speak of. The building inspector's done a good job staying on top of permits and doing inspections the best he can. People are dropping off permit applications and we're processing them. But from a major construction standpoint, we're just seeing homeowners do mostly work and some small businesses also. On the public side, we have no major construction activity going on. We did have a water project that was supposed to begin, but we suspended that work until after this, until we get further ahead on this crisis. We just didn't want a water project causing us any problems in neighborhoods, so we just suspended that work for now. I know the state has done some work throughout the town, and National Grid continues to do work throughout the town. We thought with the amount of traffic, amount of traffic being less than normal, it was a good idea to get National Grid's work out of the way. Any questions so far on the updates, whether it's from the governor or the construction?
Richard, on the as you're talking through the construction projects, I know we have a number of projects in Salem and South is moving along slowly, but they've begun work up there. I know we have some water and some water projects that we didn't finalize, that we have permits that are going on 38 and a number of things. Are they working on those, or are they?
We stopped those, Mark, because we just were concerned that we're one, we don't have full crews working, that if there was a water break or if houses were without water at a time when we're trying to encourage people to for proper hygiene, we just didn't want to have that problem. So we just suspended the work for now, and we'll get it back going. And we suspended it, I think, right now through May, shortly after the 18th, but we're just going to monitor it and see where we are.
Yeah, it's just a difficult situation where we got so little traffic impacts that it would be the ideal time to do it. But then on the other hand, you can't have impacts where I can understand where you can't limit water to where people can't leave their house and go someplace and go to a restaurant and go wash their hands or go some other location where there are no public facilities that open any place or anything else. So I understand that. I just wanted to, I know we wanted to get a lot of these projects done, and I know there's a lot of push that people ask us to get some work done while there is little traffic, but there's a reason behind a lot of the stuff that's happening.
No, you're absolutely right, and we've talked about that internally, and we really struggle with should we get the projects going, but we always come back to that what if something happens.
Yeah. No, I think it's you got to be safe than sorry, especially in these times of providing water just to clean and wash during emergency, and God forbid there was any kind of public emergency where we got to get to some location and we get the road blocked off. I understand. So it makes perfect sense, but hopefully when the order lifts in the next couple of weeks, we can get right on those projects though.
No, we will.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yep.
Please.
Just through you to the town manager, I was just wondering if they were getting any particular inquiries from residents or businesses asking when town hall is going to open, or if people are sort of equanimical about it right now. And if you have given any thought to how you might bring folks back, or if you're targeting a particular date, and that might be premature considering our numbers in Massachusetts aren't as encouraging as one might hope.
Yeah, no, so we haven't really received a lot of calls about when we're opening up. I think the library may get some calls about when they're going to open up because people obviously want to use the services. We were talking today that people drive through the senior center hoping that it's going to be opened up, so there's a fair amount of that happening. But for the most part, I think people understand because they're following what the governor's doing, and they assume if the governor has everything as the stay-at-home order extended, we're shut down too. But because, and we were talking about this today, when this all started, things seemed to be okay. We were handling operations, but as it goes on, we've fallen behind in work.
Yep.
And as I mentioned, we have things that are coming up the end of the year, June 30th. So books need to be closed, audit needs to start, taxes are due June 1st, just a variety of things. So the plan right now is starting to bring back people slowly, maybe next week.
Okay.
And really right now, without knowing what the governor's going to do, the plan was really to bring people back for the 18th. So what we've been doing internally within the town itself, the town hall, and this is something we were going to be doing anyways, where all the counters that were open will now have glass barriers for safety. The facilities manager has gone through all offices to make sure office staff has proper social distancing between desks and around their areas. We're going to make sure that we have necessary PPE for staff who want masks, gloves, things like that. Make sure we have enough hand sanitizer, wipes to clean workspace. So we're going to take all the precautions needed to the extent that we have purchased thermometers to take people's temperatures when they come into the building, to make staff only, not residents, to make sure that no one's sick when they enter. So we're going to take all the proper precautions to make sure the employees are safe. Once they get back to work, we get them settled, then we'll begin the process of opening up to residents.
Okay, great. Thank you. That sounds pragmatic. Appreciate it.
So just moving on the list that's on the agenda, Mr. Chairman, businesses and business assistance has been something that's been talked about by each of you as members, but also the Board of Health has been talking about it. And it's on everyone's mind, when a business is going to open up. And hopefully soon, hopefully we get some indication around the 18th when that's going to happen. We have a fair amount of information on the website for businesses to look at in regard to small business administration information, federal government through the CARES Act information that they can find out not only for their businesses but their employees. And then within the town, what we're trying to do Right now, and we started this last week, we started to pull information from states that are actually opening up their economy and opening up businesses. And we started to pull out the best practice guidelines that each of those states have, and particularly focusing on our restaurants. The National Restaurant Association has excellent guidelines that restaurants should follow when opening up after this, when things start to loosen up from this crisis. We also found best practice guidelines for barbershops, nail salons, hair salons, and the health department through the sanitarian is putting these into documents that we plan to send out to businesses using the business certificate list that we have that the town clerk keeps, and to send them out to businesses ahead of when the state actually opens up, so people can start thinking about the things they should be doing within their businesses to open up. They're not regulations. They're not hard and fast rules. We're going to wait for the state to finalize the plan, but just things for businesses to start thinking about so they can be proactive. So when the governor says, this is how we want businesses to open, they're ready. And we're going to be doing that, finishing that over the next week. I know the Board of Health is anxious to see guidelines or best practices like this, and they've encouraged us to do it. So we'll be working with them also. But we really want to give information to businesses as much as we can so they're ready to hit the ground running once things do open up. So that's kind of what we're working on right now for businesses. Any questions on that?
Through the chair, Richard, you hit on a lot of the businesses. I know one of the businesses that everybody's looking to open is the gym. Was there anything specific for the number of gyms that we have in the community? Everybody's going to want to get back there after being locked up for so long. Are there any guidelines on that specifically? Because I'm sure it's going to be limited in cleaning and all those type of things that everybody touches and those type of things. Anything specifically on that they've come across?
I'm going to, something. I'm glad you brought that up, Mark. We were going through the list. We first thing that came to our mind are the restaurants, then the barbershops and hair salons, because that's on people's minds, obviously. Everyone says they need a haircut. And then the nail salons came to mind. We talked about other personal service places like tanning salons, things like that, which we're going to about the gyms, which is something I'm looking forward to see opening. That's something I'll make sure we look into tomorrow, because you're right, people want to get the gyms open.
Yeah, I'm sure
that may be the hardest to figure out.
Yeah, and they're going to have to come up with, they're probably going to be looking for guidelines, because, if we have 3 or 4 gyms at least in town, I know that, and if 3 or 4 places are doing it completely differently than the other one, it's like, I'm sure we're going to need something for inspection services and what's the best practices. So I don't know if there's something we can ask from the state, public health questions or something like that may cover something like that, but we should have one set of guidelines that covers that type of business.
No, that's a great point. I'm glad you reminded us. We'll get on that tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And again, we're gonna see what other states and other communities are doing, and try to be consistent all around. So we think that'll be helpful. Okay, so moving on to budget impacts, which is, I know, a topic on all of our minds. First and foremost, as the board knows, I sent out a memo to all the department heads on Friday, putting in place a spending freeze for the remainder of fiscal year 2020 and for the beginning of fiscal 2021. The spending freeze policy essentially told departments that only spending that can take place between now and the fiscal year and when the new fiscal year begins is on essential services, so personnel, and for items that are essential to the operations of their department. Any other spending beyond that will need my approval. We also froze spending on any projects that have not started, and we have postponed bringing forward to town meeting most capital projects, with the exception of a couple that will need to take place. And the purchase of equipment has been postponed with the exception of a couple of items that we know we need to do. So we really scaled back the capital budget that is going forward at town meeting. We'll push that off till hopefully the fall. So the spending freeze was put in place on Friday. Departments obviously knew it was coming and they've already begun adhering to it. I've asked departments to look at their FY20 budgets and indicate to me where they see surpluses and where they see potential deficits. I should have that ready from them tomorrow so I can finalize the warrant for special town meeting. I don't see any major issues in the budget between now and the end of the fiscal year for 2020, but I want departments to review them anyways. In regard to the budget for fiscal 2021, departments reviewed they reviewed their budgets that were submitted back in January. One more time to make sure there were no issues. There are some minor adjustments that needed to be made, but nothing major. So the plan is to present the FY21 budget as presented to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee with no changes because we think it's premature to make any changes. In regard to the revenues that go along with both budgets, we believe that between now and the end of the fiscal year, we'll be fine with our revenues for FY20. We seem to have met most of our revenue projections for local receipts for FY20. The ones that we're still waiting on and most likely will be the most difficult to meet, but won't be by much, be the hotel motel tax and the meals tax. But we get that information quarterly from the Commonwealth, and there's a lag in that revenue, so we'll need another month or so before we better understand what that impact, if any, could be. But we've met our motor vehicle excise already. We've met a lot of the other revenues. So we're confident that the FY20 revenues will meet our projections and generate some free cash, generate free cash, maybe not what we've seen in the past, but will generate free cash. In regard to FY21 revenues, similar to the budget, I don't plan to make any adjustments at this time for a couple of reasons. One, I'd like to see how the year closes with our local receipts before we make any adjustments to our local revenues. Two, I don't know what the state aid numbers are going to be because of this crisis. I'm hearing there could be cuts of anywhere from 10 to 20%. But again, we don't know that. So I just assume wait to find out what the real numbers might be. Also, we don't know what our certified new growth is going to be, which will not be till sometime in July, August. So because of all of that, I'd like us to move forward with the FY21 budget as we presented and keep our revenue projections intact and only make changes once so we don't confuse people with numbers changing on a weekly, monthly basis, and be able to present a complete financial picture to the Board of Selectmen and to the Finance Committee and then ultimately town meeting. Right now, what we'll present to town meeting is a very scaled back version of the warrant in regard to finances. So there's no major issues being presented at town meeting. And we'll just have to wait to see how we what we find out on the state level. But right now, we're comfortable with the way FY20 is going to end, and we believe that there will be definite impacts to FY21. But let's see what they are before we finalize make any changes to the FY21 revenue and expenditures. That's it at the moment.
All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Please.
First of all, Richard, thank you for all of the updates that you've given. And with regards to the spending freeze, is there also a hiring freeze in place? Or in the event that through attrition or retirement, are you going to freeze those positions, or will you be holding and then waiting later on?
Yeah, so, and then thanks for bringing that up. I should have mentioned that. So right now, the budget in FY21 didn't have any real new positions included, so that wasn't a big issue, but any positions that are open at the moment won't be filled unless I give the approval. So public safety may have openings that are essential that we want to fill, but nothing's come across yet. So we'll take all of the vacancies. All the vacancies are within the policy frozen unless I give approval.
Great, thank you. And I just have one other question. I do really appreciate your approach, given that the projections for the state revenue are, it depends on who you talk to, what that number is. And it's a scary number. And my question to you is, do you have any sense of when we're going to get what is going to be proposed by the state? I know that they have made some adjustments on their end to their budget. Typical rollout is not going to happen. So I was wondering if you had any insight in that.
No, I've been in contact with the state senator and Representative Robinson, and no one really has a time frame. Talking to other town managers who've talked to their delegation, people have heard that possibly maybe a joint resolution in a few weeks, but no one really knows. I think they're still trying to, a lot's going to depend on when the governor opens up the state, when the economy gets going, whether it's in a slow start or not. So I think they're just waiting to understand that better. And then they'll end up telling us. But right now, I just have no time frame. I think we can expect budgetary impacts. We just don't know what they're going to be. So internally, we're going to plan for all types of scenarios. So we're ready, but I just don't think we should be throwing numbers out there, because if they change every week, it gets confusing and our credibility gets tarnished.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I'll leave it to others.
All right, perfect. Mr. Montori, are you good for your section? I don't know if you want to touch just we have the town election and town meeting quickly.
Just a couple other quick things. Any other questions on the finances? I mean, I think a lot of information went out to the board and the finance committee this week from the town accountant regarding third quarter revenues, and actually we updated the revenue worksheets to include what we took in through April, so that gives you an idea how we're doing. As you review them, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll be going over some of this a week from Thursday when the finance committee meets. Any questions, let me know.
Mr. Chairman.
Richard, just one comment. First, I want to commend you and thank all our departments for scaling back and freezing all spending. I mean, I think we really have to take a real look at our funding for everything through this year, but they're aware, obviously, that doesn't affect, personal protection, sanitizers, things like that. They're, those type of things that we need public health and safety for each employee that's working for the town. That was made very clear to them that they still continue to purchase those type of things, essentials as needed, but all other, it's discretionary, pretty much spending is that what we're freezing. Is that correct?
Correct. Right. We're not going to impact anything that affects public safety.
Okay. All right. I just want to make that clear. That's all. Just so the departments are making sure that they're buying what they need. If they have to, I know sometimes you have to, you walk into one place and you can't get it, so they may have to stockpile on stuff, not knowing if there's a supply and demand on a lot of things. As we keep seeing, there's a toilet paper shortage, a chicken shortage, a pork shortage. You never know what's going to be the next thing. So if they need to purchase things and have it in supply just in case they need it and it becomes a shortage, I want to encourage them to make sure they have plenty of supplies for every public safety thing that they need.
Yeah, no, that will absolutely happen. We'll make sure it takes place. And just one last note, because it's always an important part of the budget when we discuss budget issues. I had an excellent phone call with the school superintendent and business manager, because I sent the budget, the spending freeze policy over to them. and they're working within those parameters also. So it's been a real joint effort on both sides, as it has been for years, and I appreciate Superintendent Malone and the business manager, Dave Libby's ability to work with us, and it's truly a team effort. So that's good news for us, which will help us turn back funds at the end of the year, which will ultimately help how we move things forward. So that's important. And then one last thing, just to build upon what Mark was saying, in regard to making sure we have all the supplies we need for our public safety. You know, one of the things we're doing as we take our progressive steps of work in progression to bring employees back, and then after that start opening up to the residents. One of the things, and we talked about it today at the department head meeting, that we're going to stop getting ready for is when this happens again, because we'll be probably in this situation in the future, and we're going to make sure that we have all the supplies we need for public safety.
Yep.
To ensure that our employees are safe, our residents are safe. So planning is just never going to stop when it comes to this type of problem that we're facing. And it's going to be budgetary impact for that too. Budget?
Yes, I have one more thing, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
I really appreciate Mark's comments in terms of, essential items. I just want, if residents are listening and paying attention, I just want to say that I would not describe some of the needs that departments are going to be putting a freeze on as discretionary, as more prioritizing and deciding that we need to be incredibly fiscally responsible and squirrel away so that we can mitigate future needs, basically staffing needs. And I just want to make sure that, I don't want people to get left with the impression that, it's the end of the year and there's these funds that we're just trying to expend, but it's more prioritizing. And I think you would agree with that, as well as the other board members. I know it's semantics, but I think it's important to note that.
No, good point.
Okay.
Okay, so just quickly moving on to the last two items, Mr. Chairman. So I know that the board obviously moved the date of the town election at their last meeting, and we've been preparing for the town election over the last month. I should really say the town clerk's been preparing for the town election. So she's been working hard at developing a plan on how to operate the election and run the election. Her obviously concern is for to ensure that election workers and voters are safe. She's drafted a plan that she's in the process of finalizing that once complete, I'll send to the board to review. As she develops the plan, she's getting guidance from the Secretary of State's office, from other communities. They're doing things that we're looking at, making sure we have in place when the election takes place is obviously proper social distancing, masks for workers. We're in the process of purchasing. They're called sneeze guards, but they're these plastic shields that go on desks. So there's a plastic shield between the person coming in to sign in to vote and the person checking in the voter. We're looking at purchasing obviously enough hand sanitizer for elections, abundance of pens, so we're constantly switching out pens and sanitizing them. Making sure that we have staff on hand to sanitize voting areas throughout the election day. We're not going to be requiring voters to wear masks at this time unless something changes on the state level, but we will have our workers wearing masks as a precaution for them. The plan is to use the precincts that we currently have in place for voting. No changes there, with the exception of ensuring that we've spaced out enough of the voting booths for proper social distancing. Because it's a local election, we're not anticipating a major turnout, but we want to ensure that we have all the safety measures in place. So town clerk's done an excellent job preparing for it, and it's going to hinge on what the governor says on the 18th in regard to how we continue to operate. But one of the exemptions for the number of people that gather in one place is our town elections. So we're hopeful we can move forward and have the election on the 6th. So that's it.
Mr. Chairman?
All righty. There was one more thing, Mr. Montori. I think you already covered it. So why don't we, at this time, jump down to minutes? Miss Wellman.
Mr. Chairman, I think Ms. Stronach had a question.
Oh, please.
I think Jane, and I'm going to defer to Jane because first she might have the same question. And
the only question I had was just more of a reminder about voter mailing in your votes. You can vote absentee. Anne Marie and I have a mind meld going on, I guess. But yeah, just to remind folks, they can request absentee ballots, and that COVID-19 is an acceptable reason to vote absentee, which you need to have a reason in Massachusetts to do that. So just as a reminder, and I know you've put it up on the website, and people can go to the website and find the link to get an application to vote absentee, vote at home by mail. Thank you.
Thank you for
Good
doing
stuff.
that.
Ms. Stronach, was that the same? Or you have something different?
nope, that's exactly what it was. But I thought I'd defer to someone else for a minute.
You're supposed to say great minds think alike. But anyhow. All
Mr.
right, cool.
Chairman, I have one more thing.
Thank you for the compliment, Mr. Chairman.
And then the last thing I just wanted to talk about was town meeting that has been moved to June 22nd and 24th. We haven't finalized any exact plans for town meeting. Our hope is that we can have town meeting before June 30th and get a budget in place. A lot hinges on the governor allowing a gathering of more than 10 people, obviously, for us to have a town meeting. But right now, what we're thinking about, if the governor does increase that amount to a reasonable number, that we can properly socially distance residents within the gym, and that we could utilize the auditorium at the high school and the LG3 room in the auditorium with proper social distancing, with video to and from the gym, with audio to and from the gym, and moderators, associate moderators at each site to run the town meeting as we would if we had overflow in the gym, and when we've had overflow in the gym at various town meetings. And if needed, the telemedia department has been looking at remote sites to have town meeting, whether it's town hall, the senior center, the library, if we wanted to use other sites to have smaller groups that we can ensure social distancing. So that's kind of what we're looking at for town meeting. Talking about it today, we think that we can make it work just at the high school. But again, a lot depends on what the governor decides as far as the amount of people that can gather in a crowd. So we've been thinking about town meeting. The warrant, the annual town meeting is done. Just got to put a final corrections on it tomorrow. We'll give it to the board by the end of the week. And then to the finance committee, and we're finalizing the special town meeting warrant. That's it.
Outstanding updates. Thank you, Mr. Montori. All right. And that brings us to minutes. Ms. Wellman.
Thank you very much. Well, we have some minutes this evening to approve. I'd like to I'm going to take them one at a time. I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of December 17, 2019.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Next.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of March 24, 2020.
I'll make a second on that.
I have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call. Ms. Bowman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
And Mr. Kratman.
I voted aye as well.
Chair votes aye as well. All right, last but not least.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of April 7, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion and I have a second. Ms. Wellman, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ms. Stronach?
Aye.
Mr. Brian Dick?
Aye.
Mr. Kratman?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well.
All right, thank you.
And that's
We have
That's
some
okay.
more minutes. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
okay. Is that all, Ms. Wellman?
That's all for the minutes. We have more minutes coming. There is a bit of a backlog, and this pandemic hasn't helped with that, but I anticipate that we'll be caught up very soon, probably in the next meeting. So thank you.
Awesome. Very good. All right. Brings us to board member reports. Let's start at the top. Hey, Ms. Wellman, let's start with you.
Well, thank you very much, sir. I'm going to take just a moment of your time, and I wanted to thank you for acknowledging our first responders. I wanted to commend Richard on his report this evening. They're complete, lots of information. It's great for the public to hear that. And I didn't have anything different than what my fellow board members wanted to feedback on, so I didn't make any comments during that section of the meeting. I did want to let people know that the Beautification Committee sent out an email over the weekend. And they are letting folks know about a couple of things. The trails are open in town, and if folks are interested in finding trails in Tewksbury to walk, they should go to the town website and choose the open space and recreation plan pages. You can just search on that. You can search for trail maps, and you'll find maps there that you can use, as long as practicing safe social distancing and all that good stuff. And leashes for your dogs. Okay, leashes. That's all. Just leash the dog. That's fun. So we have a new switch box that's coming online on Shawshene and East Street. That's the art projects. So folks should take a look out for that. We have a number of them all over town. And there's a stormwater infrastructure webinar coming up from Arthur Marcos in our engineering department. And that I think is coming up on Thursday, the 7th. And so people should check the website for that as well. Stormwater is something like not a lot of people are thinking about right now, but it's a factor. So I know some folks are still interested in that. I wanted to wish everybody happy Cinco de Mayo and Taco Tuesday. And I have a sombrero to celebrate. It's a very itty bitty one, like a Barbie doll size. I don't know. Anyway, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Perfect. How about Ms. Stronach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, Richard gave the update on the elementary board committee meeting, so I have no updates there. I agree with all the thank yous to all of the town employees who are working remotely, including our parents who are teaching and supporting our teachers with the remote learning. And I just want to wish everyone to be well and take care. And that's all I have tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Thank you. How about Mr. Brian Dick?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to echo what Mrs. Wellman said about the town manager's report tonight. I thought it was good and chunky, a lot of good info. And I fully support our town manager at this time. What's nice is it's a wait and see, no panic. You can see it hearing his voice and just how he's discussing the departments and things like that. And I think, he's got his finger on the pulse, and I appreciate that. Not only as a board of selectmen, but as a resident. So I just wanted to say that. I didn't have anything else to add, but the only other thing is this Friday on the 8th of May, 3 days after Cinco de Mayo, at 2:00, there'll be an athletic field subcommittee meeting where the design team is going to present the athletic portion of the project timeline and schedule. So I've posted that meeting with the help of our town clerk. It is a meeting like this one where I believe people can call in, but the whole committee will be there, and they will give us kind of an update on what's going to be in that portion of that project, of the athletic piece, and also just a timeline and when to expect things can start and complete. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Awesome. Those are great comments. Well said, Mr. Brian Dick, especially about Mr. Montori and everything he's doing for the community. So thank you for that. And how about Mr. Kratman?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just got a couple of things to discuss. First, we've been doing, I've been meeting with the LRTA board members. We're going to be doing some Webex meetings as well. I want to add them to the thank yous to the drivers who are getting people around our community. I think that's one of the things that people don't take for granted, but there are a number of residents that depend on the LRTA to get around to our communities, and those essential workers that are bringing people to get to where they need that may not have a vehicle, or seniors that need to get their carriages or whatever they may need. Handicapped accessibility is a real something that we count on, and so those buses are still running even at a limited schedule. But I want to thank the bus drivers that continue to work during this trying time. But we are still working through the schedules. I think we're waiting for it to pick up, and then we'll hopefully we discontinue Sunday service because it just didn't make sense at this time. We're hoping to pick that back up again once the governor opens up the government and starts things and things pick up. We hope to get that running full force. On economic development, the chair and myself had a discussion with the town manager, the DPW director, the town engineer. And one of the things that we're looking at, which I plan on discussing with my committee, is being prepared if there is some sort of stimulus project that comes through. If either the president, the governor, or somebody comes through with every time some sort of crisis happens, one of the first things they tend to do is start a stimulus project of getting construction underway. So the town of Tewksbury is getting prepared already for that. I just want the residents to know that we're doing our homework. If there is something that comes across, the town will be prepared. We're working on it. We're trying to find out how we can be the first ones in line. If there is some funding that comes across that we can get something going in this community, we'll be prepared and ready to go. And I want to thank Richard, town engineer, assistant town manager. They're looking at everything that we possibly have and just being ready for that. Even though it isn't a town committee, I am on the Patriotic Committee, and unfortunately, I got to give a little bit of bad news to end the meeting. We met, I talked with the police department, police chief, veterans agent, our town manager, the chair, and we've pretty much come to the conclusion that this year we will not be having the Memorial Day parade. It's not we've contacted the state. The state will not even give us a permit to have the parade on Main Street because that is a state road. Because of COVID-19, they've told us they are not issuing any types of permits that would allow gatherings of more than 10. So just trying to get bands and building floats, and it just isn't practical of trying to get something like that together. It's heartbreaking because it's one of our favorite holidays, Memorial Day, and it's the official start of the summer, and just to honor those on Memorial Day that deserve it so well. I talked with our veterans agent today. She is trying to put together some sort of plan to do some sort of ceremony. I think it's going to be broadcast live. The plans were not finalized. She's still working on it, but it's going to be something that we plan on having on the town website, the town and television, so everybody can watch it live online, and we can do something to honor those on Memorial Day. So that's where we're staying with that. And hopefully what we'll do is, as we move forward, we'll look at the rest of the holidays as we come along, 4th of July, those type of things, and Veterans Day, and hopefully we'll maybe put something together and combine something to have one great big ceremony to be done with this horrible plague we have upon us, and get everybody out and get everybody back to enjoying the things that we deserve to have in this town. So we'll continue to work on it. We'll come up with some ideas, and if residents have any ideas, they can go onto the Patriotic website, send in any ideas they'd like. We're listening to all offers, and hopefully we'll have something that we can bring forward. And like I said, once we have the final plans on what will happen on Memorial Day, Even though it'll be a limited ceremony, there will be something, but we'll give that information on the town website, and we'll try to get it out to the news stations as well. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, perfect. Thanks, Mr. Kratman. All right, short and sweet. This is the only time and last time you're ever going to hear me say it was kind of wonderful to see a lot of traffic on 38 this Saturday and Sunday. I really mean that. A lot of stores were busy. The businesses were busy because it was beautiful out. So we'll get there. We're going to get there. So it was pretty cool to see a little bit of traffic out there and some of the businesses being swamped because a lot of folks are doing yard work. So it was pretty cool. Again, that's the only time you're ever going to hear me say traffic was cool on 38. And other than that, that's all I have. Actually, I just want to say a very happy Mother's Day to all the moms on the not so positive time. So for all the kids and the husbands and everyone out there, they're going to have to kind of get a virtual rain check here. You know, we can do our Mother's thing on Sunday, but we have to give them a rain check down the road here when things are back to normal. So that's all I had to share. So with that being said, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, can I just, one quick thing?
Please.
One thing that was on the agenda under my report was the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness project that we're undertaking. I just wanted to note that a memo was given to the board, to me, that I sent to the board from the Assistant Town Manager. It was a very good memo outlining the project for the board, just to update the board on the project. So for the residents who are listening, the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Project is a program that's or a project that's been undertaken by the town planner, Anna McGinty, and Steve Sadwick, the town assistant town manager. And the MVP grant program, it's been funded by a grant, and it supports cities and towns across the Commonwealth to mitigate impacts from climate change. The project also includes updating our hazard mitigation plan within the town. Again, that's through grant funding that they received. And that allows us to identify risks and vulnerabilities associated with natural disasters and developing long-range strategies for protecting people and property from hazards. So that project has been ongoing. I know a survey was conducted of residents of what they believe our biggest vulnerabilities are. Anna and Steve have been working with a core team that's made up of a consultant and key department heads. So this project has been ongoing, and they've done a good job incorporating feedback from residents and getting public input. And the plan should be complete May 8th. And once the plan's complete and the project's complete, it'll allow us to apply for funding to actually implement some of these strategies. That's it.
Very good. With that said, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
A motion on a second.
Second that.
Roll call vote. Ms. Wellman.
Aye.
Ms. Stronach.
Just got connectivity.
Mr. Brian Dick.
Aye.
Mr. Kratman.
Aye.
The chair votes aye as well. Oh, Ms. Stronach. I think she said aye. I'm pretty sure.
Aye.
So there you go. Thank you very much. All right. Thanks a million. We'll see everyone soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye.